Ladies and gentlemen, we're back at Real Deal Talk with another MMA legend in the house. Julio, Overtime, Aguilera. How you doing, bro?
Not bad. How you doing?
Fantastic. Bring the mic up to us here so we can...
Thank you for having me.
There you go. Look at it. Listen to the voice, bro. He's got like this low, smoky voice. This is amazing. Amazing. All right. It's a pleasure to have you, an honor. So let's break it down, man, because I just interviewed 2 or 3 fighters that you actually train.
Yes,
Okay. So I love interviewing trainers because it's a whole nother level of just commitment. And when you're sewing into others and your fighters, how it becomes a lot less about yourself and it becomes all about your fighter. Would you agree?
100%.
Because when you're a fighter, you have no choice but to focus on yourself like 24/7 to have the confidence to stand in a ring with somebody, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you're the trainer, you have to now instill that and pour everything you've got. It's a fascinating dynamic to me. So let's get into this. How long? Let's go way back. Like, how old are you, by the way?
I am 35.
35. Still a young buck. When did you start training in any form of anything, like either boxing, wrestling, MMA? When did it start? What age?
I started training right around like 20, 21 years old in
Okay.
2009, like right at the end of 2009.
Yep. Okay. And how did it start? What did you start with?
I basically just came home. I joined the military in 2006 when I graduated high school, and I got stationed back home here in San Diego, but in Temecula. I was living back home. I had a couple buddies that I wanted to hang out with, and they were like non-existent. And I was like, where's Brandon and Craig at? And everybody's like, oh, they're training for fights over at this gym called Team Quest. They don't hang out no more. And I was like, really into going to the gym and, trying to be in shape. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go, hang out with them. And they had their first fights coming up for a show called Total Fight Alliance.
Yep.
out of Los Angeles. And they were just like, hey, Julio, you're in pretty good shape. You can be like our corner, or you can help hold pads and help us work out and get in shape. And like, yeah, we need corners because they didn't really have coaches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just started rolling. They were CIF wrestlers in high school, and they just figured they were gonna make the jump to MMA. And it was still fairly new. Camo wasn't really around yet. We actually they fought on the first Camo sanctioned show.
Yep.
And it was pretty cool. Like Boss Rutan was there, and some MMA legends that we grew up watching. And once we went to that show, we were just fully in it.
Wow. So were you training at MMA at all? Like,
No, not at all. I was just, as in the military, it was into being in shape, going to the gym every day, running every morning, and I wasn't really into like what my other friends were doing.
Yeah.
So, I just ended up, linking back up with Brandon and Craig and just started training every day and going to the gym. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. I took like a lot of ass whoopings because like I didn't have like a base like them. I wasn't a wrestler or anything. I was just like a guy who was in shape. So
this is incredible. And you basically went right into training, more or less?
yeah, I just kind of jumped in with them and started just training. Just started training with them, going to classes, going to practice. Went to some practices that, like I shouldn't have been at, like the pro practices, and like got asked to leave a couple times, like I wasn't ready. And then after a couple times of like just keep showing.
Did they
up,
vouch for you? Like, hey, he's with us?
They did, but like it was it was actually like the pro team practice at a gym called Team Quest, which is owned by a guy named Dan Henderson.
Oh
MMA
yeah,
legend.
I know Dan.
And
well, I know of him.
And then everybody there was a killer. Everybody in the room was like somebody that we had watched on TV or looked up to. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have been in there, but after a few times of going, the coaches were just like, whatever, just let him stay. So
That's amazing.
kind of pushed my way in.
And so did you fight in any fights yourself?
Oh yeah, I had my my MMA debut for TFA
Yeah.
in 2011, like July 2011, and it was a pretty crazy fight. And then from there, I had fought one more time for them, and then all of my teammates, and the guys that I looked up to were fighting for Epic, like back like Epic 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Like they said, Coach Manny, he was the first ever Epic heavyweight champion and the Camo State heavyweight champion.
Yep.
And I was actually buying tickets like to the Epic shows, and then ended up getting on a card. In
Wow.
2013.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
How did it go?
It actually didn't go that well. I was like, I just came off a decision fight, and
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to get the win because I lost a split to a kid named Sergio Castanon. So I showed up, and I was supposed to fight a different guy, and then like the night before, some stuff went wrong on the card, so they split us all up. and I had just stopped cutting weight and fought like a weight class and a half up, like a catch weight.
Yeah.
And I was doing well, and then I just got caught, and then I dropped to a knee, and they stopped the fight right away,
man.
like immediately. Yeah.
And so did you do any other fights after that?
Oh yeah, I came right back, and then I fought, got a W, got my first W,
Nice.
and then ended up fighting like this guy named Tommy Watson. He ended up being like one of the best welterweights in the state, and fought him like. I think we ended up fighting like at 1. I was supposed to fight again like at 45, and my opponent didn't show up, and they're like, well, you could fight, Tommy, and he cut some weight, and we met like in the middle. I fought him at the 4th and B. There was like the last fight show at the 4th and B was a club that Epic would do the fights at in downtown San Diego, and that was a banger. And then like once I did that one, I was like, all right, I just fought this really tough dude. He's really good. He finished all my teammates like at welterweight, and I stepped up like a higher weight class to fight him, and I fought him to a decision. And I was like, I'm gonna stick this out. I think this is for me for sure.
Nice.
So
fantastic. So then, when did you like? Pretty much, are you now just strictly training others fighters?
Back in no, so like they talked about 10th Planet San Diego. I was a part of Team Quest for a long time, and then I just needed a change. So I ended up I knew Coach Manny really well from Team Hurricane Awesome, 10th Planet San Diego, and he would always talk to me about maybe coming down. So I made the drive one day, went to their practice, trained with some of their killers, and I was like, all right, this is the place I need to be if I want to, take this to the next level. So I just started going down there a lot, and kept fighting with them, and they helped me put together some good wins. And then from there, Epic got me a pro contract. I beat a guy that was supposed to be signed to a show at the time called Combate Americas. It's now called Combate Global. His name was Julio as well. So it was Julio versus Julio. And when I won, they were like, hey, he was supposed to be signed to Combate. Do you want to take his spot? And they introduced me to the people that were there from the show that night. And we inked the deal. Harvey and Jason got me the fight and made my pro debut with them.
Wow.
So
amazing, dude. And so are you going to fight? You got any fights coming up anytime soon?
So basically, after Combate, I got signed to Bellator MMA thanks to one of my teammates and my coaches at the time, and I fought Mike, the guy who beat me in the first Epic. And we fought like
no way.
Yeah, my coach was like, because I had lost that pro debut, a decision, and then I was like, all right, let me take some time off. I had like some weird stuff going on, medical stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next day at practice, my coach was like, I think I got you in a Bellator, and I was like, man, Bellator doesn't want me. And he's like, yeah, look, and he showed me the text message. And I was like, oh, I'll fight that guy. He's like, you don't even know him. I was like, yeah, I do. I fought him for Epic, my debut. Like, I would love to run that back. It's almost, close to a decade later.
Wow.
And he was like, all right, let's go do this. And then like January 1st, New Year's Day, my like freak accident, my nose got like broke off my face. Like it looked like someone took scissors and cut it at caught an up kick to the face. And but it was Bellator, and back like where I come from, like the era I came from, you don't pull out of fights. Like when you get a fight like that, like it's an opportunity. So we did like some tricks, use like cryofacials, use this thing called the PEMF machine. I did like did a bunch of stuff.
What did you do? Your nose just shattered?
It was pretty bad. It was real. Like it was bad. Like it's really bad. And I took like a week off from practice, and my coach didn't bother me. And then I remember I showed back up like on Friday because it happened like on a Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
New Year's Day was like a Sunday that day, and the garage is like opened up to the parking lot. And I got out of the car and was getting my stuff out, and he was like, Julio? And I was like, yeah. He's like, we're still doing this? And I was like, I didn't know you could pull out of a pro fight. And he was like, fuck yeah, get in here. And I went in there, and my nose, with all the stuff we were doing, it fused back together. I was able to start breathing out of it like the week of the fight. And we went out there and fought, and it broke in the first round again immediately. We clinched.
Blood everywhere.
Throwing knees everywhere. And when I ate that first, when I heard the pop, I fell down. He fell on top of me, and then my like mouth filled with blood, and I spit it out, and I saw it on the floor. Like I was like, damn, my nose is broken. This is gonna be hard for to make this through. And I actually knew Mike. I actually ended up like at the team overtime. His brother had signed up, and I trained him, and we were cool. The MMA community is real small, so we became friends after the fight, and our coaches are friends and own a management team together, so we were always on the same card. So I remember like when we were on the ground, like I tied up with him, and I was like, fucking Mike, you broke my nose. And he was like, stop talking. Like he didn't want me to like talk, and it was a good fight. Got like my head split open at the top, re-broke my nose, and it was a banger. And then I was like, man, I dropped that decision, and I was like, real.
So you made the whole fight.
We made the whole thing.
Good
and
Lord.
And I like was just walking to my room with my coach and my teammate, and then we saw like the owner of Bellator and the matchmaker at the time, and then these guys named Greg and Jeff. They used to own or they still do own a clothing company called Clinch Gear.
I know Greg and Jeff.
So there you go,
dude. I did security with them. The Brady brothers.
Yeah, the Brady brothers. Yeah.
Yes.
So I know them because of Team Quest.
Come on.
Them and Dan did the Clinch Gear thing together. So they would my whole career would do my shorts and stuff, and I walked up to the table with my coach. They were all eating right there in the casino restaurant. And they were like, man, that was a really good fight, Julio. We heard you kind of had like a big setback, back a couple weeks ago and busted your nose. And the fact that you took this fight was pretty cool. And then Greg and Jeff were like, yeah, maybe we can get him one more. That was a good one. And they were like, well, Bellator's coming to Pechanga 4 times a year now because they had built like a new arena there. We'll get you on the next one. And I was like, all right, cool. And my coach was like, I thought you were going to take some time off. And I was like, well, now I got to figure this out. And I was having some weird internal things going on, just some nerve stuff and some head stuff. And then they offered me another fight against the wrestling coach at the gym I had left, Team Quest. And I was like, yeah, I'll run that for sure. And I went to go get cleared. And then my blood work came back saying like I had lupus. And then the doctor was like, I'm convinced you don't have it. Let's, run some more tests. And then it came back saying I had like a blood cancer. Wow. So then he was like, yeah, it's kind of out of my hands. I'm going to send you to a hematologist. And at the time, like in my head, I was like, always a pretty mentally tough guy. So I was like, whatever, this is just wrong. Like, I don't, think this is really happening. And then at the time, my wife and I hadn't told anybody about this because I was just going to these medical appointments on my own. And then my wife was like, I want to go to one of these with you. And I was like, all right. So she comes to the one where they're going to read me the results. And I remember the doctor came walking in and like turned his back to us at first and like shut the door. And he like turns to me and he's like sweating bullets. And I was like, uh-oh. And like my wife's sitting right there. He's like, could she leave the room? And she was like, no, like I'm his wife. I'm staying right here. And then he's like, okay. And he's like shaking and he's like trying to explain to me in like so many words. And I was like, yo, doc, just like, what's up? What do it? He's like, you have a myeloma, a blood, like the second rarest blood cancer in the world. And then I was like, oh, I like pulled out my phone right away. I was like, oh, melanoma, 99% survival rate. I'm beating this. And he's like, no, the other one. Yeah. And I looked at it and it's like 3 to 5 year life expectancy. Like, and I was like, actually had just had like my son. And I was like, oh shit, like there's really no coming back from this. At the time I wasn't sure if I had it or not, but one of my teammates and good friends had actually been diagnosed with it for real. He's still alive. His name's Pat. He's a really good dude. And man, he's, like I said, this was 2016, I want to say, like 2016, 2017. So he's still alive and doing well and still training at the gym. So I like packed up all the paperwork, drove down to the gym and started showing him what they were saying I had and showing him all my levels and stuff. And he was like, I don't know, Julio, like, like the telltale signs for sure based off my doctors, because he had went to some other places and got second and third opinions. Yeah. He's like, I mean, you have this one thing, but this level that they're saying, it was like kappa, lambda, light protein ratios, like that could be from like arthritis and old injuries. But they were like convinced I had it. So we went through like the ringer for like 6 months, all these different medical appointments, like 3 times a week, Loma Linda, like I was a veteran. So I went to like different doctors. And after like 6 months, they were like, it's our discretion that we don't believe you have this, but you should be checked like every 6 months to a year. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm like, I hear this happens to people all the time, and whether it's, it's the medical industry trying to make money or just charge insurance. I was like, I'm not getting checked no more. Like, I think I'm all right. I think, what's going on is probably just, I've been fighting since, like I said, 2010, and my body was just banged up, and I was a featherweight, always training with like middleweights and up, and, things slid around and popped that shouldn't. So I was like, maybe I'll just like, retire and, maybe science will catch up, and I'll just focus on my program. At the time I was teaching at Self-Made, and I wanted to open the gym. I was like, I'll focus on that, and maybe US will like legalize stem cells. There'll be other stuff that comes about, and at least I'll build a gym, so I'll be close to the sport still, and then maybe I can make a comeback later. And I took a lot of time off, and then actually a guy from Epic, he's like one of their longtime fighters. He's a pro now. His name's Rahir Dudes. He's from Tahiti. He would come to California to fight. He had asked me if I could help him match his show in Tahiti last year in May. So I hadn't fought since my last fight for Bellator in 2018. Yep. And I was like, yeah, man, I'll help you match it. And I had matched a couple fights. And then he was like, dude, you matched 3 fights. Like, can you match one more? We have a lightweight. And I fought at featherweight. So I knew like lightweight, I was probably walking around like at 57. And I was like doing some MMA math in my head. I was like, who's the guy? And he sent me the guy, and I checked out his Sherdog, and I was like, I'll fight that guy. And they're like, what? You're like, you haven't fought in 5 years? Like, you don't even realize? Like, I teach every day, and I still work out. And the fight was like in 12 days, and it was in Tahiti. I've never been to Tahiti, so I was like, yeah, it's free vacation. MMA math. This guy really can't. Like, I looked at his fights. Like, he's not gonna like hurt me or nothing. Like, I'll be all right in there. And jumped on the plane and went out there to fight him. And then the day before weigh-ins, Rahir was in the main event, and his opponent didn't show up to the fights, and they had already lost the co-main event.
Yeah.
So they basically just hit me up and were like, hey man, like, you're the only guy with like enough experience, and will you fight Rahir in the main event? And I was like, man, I came out here to
Wait. What weight group is that?
He 170. So I was there.
That's
to fight,
middleweight?
No, welterweight. I was there to fight a lightweight fight, and they were like, just stop cutting weight, and you can just chill. And I was like, guys, I showed up at 57. I'm fighting at 55. I fight at 45. My next Bellator fight was going to be at 135 because I can make pretty lightweight. And they're like, oh, okay, like, well, we saw you guys at the airport hugging stuff. You guys look close to, the same build. Like, we can do this. We're here. We'll cut some weight. And I was like, all the coaches and the fighters in the fight, basically they were like, if you don't fight him, we'll just refund everybody, all the people who bought tickets, their money. And because we don't have a main event or a co-main event. The fight was on a Friday, and they're like, you fighters will just like hang out at the house and go home on Sunday. And I came out, we were all staying, I got a villa, and they were like, I came out, I could tell everybody kind of already knew, and they were like, man, I still want to fight and get paid and stuff. And then one of the coaches who was there, he's like a pretty good coach, Hanato, he was like, man, he's like, I wouldn't tell you to do anything to put yourself in danger, but a lot of guys are depending on you. Why don't you just throw a number at them and see if they'll give you that money?
Yeah.
And if they give you that money, what do you got to lose? And I was like,
Yeah.
told them, we did the weigh-in. They said after the fight we'll pay you that money, and we went out there and fought another banger, went to decision. I just really think like the weight difference was a big difference
Because he's
like,
probably walking around at 180.
Oh, he's massive. Like
right?
You see the weigh-in and everything.
Yeah.
Like he's a massive.
180 easy.
He's massive.
Right?
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah, he's jacked. He's like a massive Tahitian. And like I said, I was like took the fight on 11 days notice, no camp. I'm looking pretty soft, but I've been training like I said since 2010. I run the gym. I believe in myself, my technique, the stuff, my coaches, my teammates, just everybody.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get in there. If I go out, whatever, it'll be quick. I'm sure. It's gonna be like a head kick, or he's gonna catch me. Maybe I zig when I should zag. And the first round, I came out there and pushed the pace right away, and I could tell his corner was like, dude, you got to pick it up. Like, he's kind of taken off, and then he came out in the second and third and really, put it on me. But it was a good fight back and forth.
Yeah.
It was a fun fight. And then after that, I was like, hey, yeah, I'll do this again. I thought I really didn't have anything left, but after that one, I'd like to come back out here and fight the guy I was supposed to fight, because he was sitting front row watching after they split us up and found him like some guy from a Muay Thai gym who was like an amateur who they paid to go pro. And they had like this weird agreement that he wouldn't take him down, and the kid came out and started piecing him up. So then he took him down. The kid had no jiu-jitsu at all, held him with the Dagestani wrist control and ground and pounded him out, and they got stopped. And the kid was young. He was like freshly 18, and then him and his dad was his corner, and we were in the same locker room, and he came out and he was crying, had a black eye, and I was like, don't worry, man, part of the deal for me fighting Rahir was I get to come back and fight that guy. I'll get him back for you, Don't like that guy. I know what he did. And I went out there, fought Rahir, and then I was like, yeah, I'd like to fight Julian, and the crowd was like, yeah, let's fight him. Like, let's make that fight happen. So we're in talks right now. They're saying we're gonna fight.
Did you get paid, by the way?
Oh yeah, I got paid.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
That was a nice paycheck, and that was like probably some of the first real money I ever made from MMA, other than like ticket sales and T-shirts, and Bellator and Combate were some checks, but that was like a nice check. And then we're right now talking about doing it in September. Me and the kid Julian, they've still been having him fight on the shows, and we're supposed to fight in September for the belt for their show. So kind of just gearing up and getting ready, and if this one happens, it does, but things can always fall apart. If it doesn't, I'm not too mad about it. I got all my kids that you just interviewed, and they're doing it. For me, it's just fun. Like, it's just a fun thing now, just for legacy, just kind of just finish off. I haven't said, I win the belt, I'll maybe go out there and fight once or twice, and then call it a day after that, right off into the sunset. So,
and so did you say you have wife?
Yeah, kind of. Well, we're kind of split up right now. We're separated. Yeah, we're going through a divorce, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right, I won't dig into that.
No, you're all good, man.
Ah.
Everybody knows her.
Yeah.
She worked for Epic for a while, and they kind of watch us grow up, man. I've known Jason for over a decade, knowing Harvey.
Nice.
So.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, one son, Maximus Aries. He's a little terror. He's just 7 years old.
7.
7. He's a good kid. He's a funny, solid.
And you live in Temecula?
Yeah, I live in Temecula. I live in Marietta. The gym's in Temecula.
Yep.
So.
And so, give me this, like, at this point, like, what drives you? What keeps you going? What's your why? Why do you continue doing what you're doing? Training all the time. I
just tell, like, well, it's either this or, I don't want to be at Home Depot or Amazon, so, I can't do that. I got out of the military in 2010. I was in for 4 years. And when I got out to pursue fighting, everybody's like, what are you doing? Like, the military's really, I come from the same town as Moses, Lake Elsinore. It's not the best place. A lot of people die of drug overdoses. There's like a lot of, just bad stuff going on there. So like when I joined the military and left, my parents were like pumped. So then I came back and was getting out to fight, and they were just like furious. Like, you're going to leave, the one thing you have behind to go pursue martial arts. You don't even train already, like, or anything like that. So, but other than that, I just stuck to it. And I just decided, I was like, when I got out of the military, I was like, I can't work for nobody, I can't probably throw a computer at somebody or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll figure this out, do personal training, do privates. I bounced for a long time in, Old Town Temecula and, certain restaurants, and did everything I could to not have a real job to make sure I could do privates and teach people and just, stay close to the sport. And then started running a program out of Self-Made, saved up all the money, didn't really spend any, just saved up money for like a couple of years. And then once I saved up enough money, started buying the equipment. And then thanks to a really good friend of mine, Julio, same name as me, Brazilian. He was a guy who just believed in me, and he's like a fan of the sport. And he was like, why don't you let me help you out and help you get a building and stuff? And, I believe that, you're going to make some good fighters, and I see what you can do. So yeah, the rest is history. We got a gym, and, we got a little warehouse, opened it March 1st, right before the same month COVID lockdown started.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody's like, you're going to open a gym, they're going to like shut down the US and stuff. I was like, man, what are you guys talking about? That's not happening. And then sure enough, they did. And I stayed open. I didn't, I got a lot of flack, people were like leaving crazy reviews, saying all sorts of stuff. And, but I stayed open, survived the pandemic. We were like in a little warehouse, and then the gym grew, like the guy said, pretty, a lot of growth. And there was like a yoga studio that went out of business. Like we had like one bathroom, it was a warehouse, no heating and AC. And there was like this really nice yoga studio that went out of business, locker room, showers, and, ended up getting out of there and going down the street and grabbing that, and now we're there now, and it's really just a dream come true.
Nice, dude. I love it, man. Overtime. So the gym is called Team Overtime or just Overtime?
No, Team Overtime. Yeah,
that's the name of the gym.
Team Overtime.
Nice, man. What a story, bro.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And then so you got how many? You got one in Epic Fighting 50.
We have 2 at Epic.
Two.
Yeah, 2. Keanu Villarreal, and then Moses Oslam.
Moses.
Gentleman. We were trying to get Carlos on it. He's fought for Epic twice, but it's kind of harder to match him. He's got a couple solid fights out there, and everybody always likes to, pick and choose.
Yeah.
So Harvey was trying to get him on, and they couldn't really find him anything. So
yeah, because he's a beast, huh?
Yeah, he's a savage. Yeah,
he's a savage. He's a menace. And is that he the menace? No,
no. Carlos is the second one, the really reserved. But when he gets in there,
so well spoken, man. He flowed, dude. Yeah, he was flowing.
I love that. I love them all. They're like they're my kids. I tell people those are my kids. So.
And Moses is the menace.
Moses is the menace. Yeah. He is a little menace.
I can't wait to see him.
He watered down his life story so much.
He did.
He's. I know his. The family he comes from. His dad. I mean,
I got in there a little bit though. We got some. We got something out of him.
You got some of it.
We got a little something. If I had a little longer, I'd go a little deeper.
Yeah, he's got they all got great stories. Carlos. Told you about his dad. He was there the night everything happened.
Wow.
Yeah, he could have not been here. What happened that night?
Right.
His dad basically saved his life that night. And they just all got injured. It's weird. I don't ever get like the super athletic, talented kids or the kids that come from, solid homes. Like I always just get these, kids that come from really broken, situations.
Yeah.
And, MMA kind of like when I get them, they come in, they're not very confident. They're kind of going through it. You could tell they don't have much going from. And I tell them, listen to me, we'll do this, and you'll see, man. Your life's gonna change. So
how Talk to me about how fulfilling that is. Like being able to pour into these young kids and give them hope.
I never really, I guess I kind of see like with all them different versions of myself, different
Yeah.
stages of my life. So every time, like even like some of them, they're hard headed. They can be, they have bad days. They can have really bad days with the lifestyles they've told you, and they can come in and I tell myself like, remember Julio, this was you at one point.
Yeah.
Don't,
Love them where they're
give
at.
them grace, give them grace.
Yeah.
And so I don't really look at it like a lot of times people ask me that. People will say like, "Oh, you're doing God's work." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing God's work, bro. I'm just doing what I love, and I get to meet a bunch of cool kids like them. They're like, I don't, they are my friends. They are my family. They come to my house. They sleep at my house. Carlos has a key to my house. They're a solid group of kids, and then they're like my kids, but they're like my friends as well. So I love them to death. I'll do anything for them. Yeah, I would. So.
Yeah. How much do they drive you? Like.
Oh man, between they're like they all know my son. My son loves them. They love my son. They're like my they drive me like. Someone asked me like, man, how do you do it? And I was like, I gotta do it, man. Like I said, I'm not.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I could do. I'm not gonna be. You're not gonna catch me mopping up Wendy's. So,
Yeah.
so that's really it.
These kids rely on you, bro.
Yeah, I rely on them too, though, for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh man, dude, this was awesome. We could go a lot longer than this, but this is fantastic. Appreciate you coming on, dude. It's been an absolute honor. Can't wait to see your boys fight this coming Epic 57 this Friday. Wow,
This
I
Friday.
can't wait, dude. Can't wait to see you guys out there. Wifey and I will be there. Jason got us front row tickets, so we'll be right in the
Let's
front,
go.
right, Jay?
We'll
That's
make sure
right,
to shout
baby.
you out. We'll see you.
Real Deal Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Julio Overtime Aguilera. It's been a pleasure. Been an honor. Let's go. Come on. Real Deal Talk. That's a wrap. Julio Overtime.